Coincidences happen around us all of the time, but usually we just don't have enough information to take notice. Here are 10 instances where the impossible has become reality. Number 10. These twins were born in Ohio during the 1940s and share an amazing history full of startling coincidences. They were put up for adoption at only 3 weeks old and ended up with different last names. One of them was named Jim Springer, and the other one was named Jim Lewis, but to cut down on confusion, I'll refer to them as Jim and Lewis from now on. So Lewis knew that he had a twin brother, but Jim did not. With the help of the courts, Lewis used his adoption papers to track his brother down a full 39 years later. When they finally met, the two quickly found they had a lot more in common than just genetics. Okay, so get this, they both married different women named Linda. That's definitely strange, but I guess it's not totally impossible. But then they both got divorced and remarried two different women named Betty. They both have sons and both are named James Allen. They even gave their dogs the same name of Toy. It gets even crazier. Despite never meeting for most of their lives, they both got involved in law enforcement and even vacationed at the same small beach in Florida. Both even have different cousins who were named Larry. Their case was so phenomenal that the University of Minnesota decided to run tests to find out exactly how alike they really were. Some of these tests were very unlikely to produce the same results, too.
All the tests Johnny showed so far that they're identical. It's just like the same person taking the test twice. They're that close.
That's a strange feeling.
Sure it is.
Like they would be put into different rooms and told to draw a picture. Out of all the possible choices, they both chose to draw a man who looked very similar in both versions. Another experiment isolated them again and then asked them to make up a random story. Both of them, despite being in separate rooms, made up a story about a family working in a field. These strange coincidences clearly prove that twins tend to think alike even when kept in separate environments. And if a completely stranger who thinks almost exactly like you isn't one of the creepiest thoughts imaginable, then I guess I don't know what is. Number 9. Ethan Minard and his friend are out exploring when they find a long tunnel that gives off a creepy vibe. They are commenting on how dark the tunnel is and just trying to keep calm in general when suddenly a small child's voice chimes in somewhere behind them.
It's like pitch black in here.
The timing of this creepy small voice is quite a curious and morbid coincidence. It simply says, "hello," at just the right moment during a small pause in their conversation. Whether this was real or edited is up to you decide, but I think there is a strong chance that something paranormal was down there. Number 8. Rashawn Richardson was a star player for the Hillcrest High basketball team in Dallas, Texas. He was practically unstoppable on the court and could easily sink 30 points in a single game. His legendary reputation as a star athlete grew for 9 months until one day everyone found out the real reason why he was so much better than everyone else. Rashwan is playing another nearly flawless game when the other team's coach recognizes him from somewhere a long time ago. The memory is hazy, but suddenly it dawns on him. He clearly remembers coaching this student 7 years ago. He immediately alerts the school about the situation. As it turns out, Rashwan Richardson is actually a full-grown man named Sidney Gilstrap Portley. He is 25 years old and is now facing numerous charges for falsely enrolling in a high school, including serious crimes stemming from his alleged 14-year-old girlfriend, who sadly had no idea of his true age and identity at the time. What's most incredible is how no one, from students to faculty members, ever suspected him of being far older than he claimed. Here is a quick video of him blending in at lunch. Tell me if you would suspect this man is in his mid-20s instead of 17. Anyway, if he hadn't by coincidence played a game against his old high school team, then... Sidney could have very well have remained in school to this day. After all, wasn't scheduled to graduate from Hillcrest until the year 2020. It really makes you wonder if maybe one day something similar will be discovered about a student who goes to your school. What a coincidence that would be. Number 7. Good Morning America was in the process of completing their daily segment, when co-host Robin Roberts couldn't help but notice a striking similarity between a suspect from a previous story and her co-host, Josh Elliott. While the co-host, Josh, and the suspect certainly look alike.
I don't know.
know. You just remind me of someone all of a sudden. I'm just looking at you, and I can't.
Where are you going, Robert?
I can't remember.
This wasn't the only person this was the case with. The original reporter who reported on the incident also looked disturbingly similar to the suspect. Although, cases of coincidences where the newscaster looks like the reported suspect can certainly be humorous, they can also be quite creepy. This suspect is accused of attacking a woman after a traffic incident. Therefore, I hope the real suspect was brought to justice. Number 6. That's how a YouTuber named Jennifer Moen 5 pays her respects to her dad, who has since passed on. Then one day it looks like her father says hello back her and her family. You can see a shimmering orb rise and fall to the ground as soon as she says hi to her father.
Oh boy.
I wanted to add that this is the only paranormal video on Jennifer's channel, which otherwise focuses on enjoying wholesome moments with family, so I really don't think this is video editing. I also wanted to ask that everyone please show the utmost respect when telling me if you believe this is real or fake, since it deals with the memory of a loved one. Number 5. Christina Carr is all alone in her old attic in New Jersey, but she feels like she is constantly watched. She invites anything lurking in the shadows to make its presence known. It isn't long before she gets a response.
Is anybody in here with me?
It isn't long before she gets a response.
Oh, goodness.
She does not hear it at the time, but the disembodied voice of an older woman timidly asks, "Hello?" The voice sounds alarmed and confused, almost like it's asking for help. Christina continues to poke around the attic asking questions until she gets another potential sign in the form of distant sirens.
Store a few things, that's all. I hear some kind of alarm.
Let me know if you think this alarm was just a coincidence or if you think a paranormal presence was somehow trying to warn Christina to stay away from the attic. Number 4. A lifeless person is wrapped in a blue tarp was recently found in Camptown, Pennsylvania, and a local news reporter is digging for details. She arranges for an interview with someone named Matthew Haverly, a man who happens to live across from the creek where the person was found. He acts completely surprised about the situation and disavows any knowledge of what could have transpired. Hours later, police discover that the person was, in fact,
I had no clue. Sad to say that that's someone's either daughter, mother, whatever, both, child.
none other than Matthew's mother, which makes this last comment a terrible coincidence. If Matthew was aware beforehand that it was his mother floating in the creek, he gives absolutely no indication at the time. He ends the short interview by saying how the person was probably dumped in the creek out of town by hitmen. Police investigators don't buy this explanation one bit.
It'd be like a place where people from the city would want to put a body because most likely they wouldn't be found.
They raid his property and in his shed they find the same blue tarp that his mother's body was wrapped in. As of this date, he has been charged with a capital offense but not yet convicted. If he is found guilty, then this means, out of sheer coincidence, the reporter had unknowingly scheduled an interview with the very same man who had taken his mother's life not too long ago. She may very well have been standing just a few feet away from a calm and collected psycho without realizing it. Number 3. A news reporter is doing a basic story about heavy traffic patterns in Gwinnett County, Georgia when she stops and interviews a random person passing by. He politely comments about local transportation for a bit and then quickly goes on his way.
They have its own public transportation, so Mark coming out here would definitely help out a lot.
The news reporter is later contacted by police for urgent questioning. A witness says that they saw a man rob a bank and then afterwards stop at a news van to conduct a short interview. The interview footage you see here, along with photos of a license plate and other surveillance footage, was enough for police to arrest him. They identified the man as Eric Rivers and quickly took him into custody. Number 2. Like many YouTubers, Jack Stevens uses his channel to archive various vacation videos and family memories for his own personal enjoyment. Most of it is ordinary travel footage, but there's one video in particular that was taken during his stay in the Biltmore Hotel in Providence, Rhode Island that's extremely eerie. He's all alone in his room when a big light overhead starts acting up, so he starts to record it for proof. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but it's definitely weird how the lights only seems to flicker on and off when he's talking about them. I guess electrical malfunctions in an old hotel isn't that big of a deal, but that's not all that happens.
And as you can see, that's the lamp that's hanging. Let's see. Oh, okay. There it goes. Did you see that?
When Jack Stevens is finished recording all of the other rooms to prove that he really is all alone, he returns to the main room only to find the overhead lamp is now doing this on its own. It continues to swing in small circles for a full minute without any sign of slowing down. Even if this was fake and someone else was in the room to move it.
So I don't know how it is doing this.
The lamp should eventually stop swinging in circles, but it never does. At this point, Jack Stevens is sufficiently creeped out and has to check out of this hotel early. Before we get to number 1, I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have questions or suggestions. If you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, then hit that subscribe button because I upload a new video every day. Number 1. A news team is reporting on a bank heist in Minnesota that happened yesterday when suddenly a bank employee comes flying out of the building pointing out someone off camera. There's the bad guy, right there.
Tyler, just 24 hours ago, this bank in North... What? Oh, that's the robber.
The banker says as he sprints towards the suspect, who is getting into a van. As it turns out, a man named Ryan Liskow had just robbed the same bank 2 days in a row. The news team just happened to be there reporting the first incident when the exact same thing unfolded for a second time right before their very eyes. Ryan was captured shortly thereafter and sentenced to nearly 10 years in prison, so fortunately this probably won't happen a third time anytime soon. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because I upload a new video every day. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of my other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy.